Hi guys, this is Métis and Me, a podcast for Métis youth in Ontario where I dive a little deeper into what it means to be Métis in Ontario and the different intersections of Métis identity. I'm Hannah Bazinet, your host. Thank you so much for joining me. Alright, hi guys. I'm Hannah Bazinet, the host of Métis and Me. I am so excited to finally get this podcast off the ground. I got the grant, I think, in November, and it's been a long work in progress. I keep getting really nervous to put the episodes out and talk myself kind of out of it, and then work myself back up, start editing, talk myself back out of it. It's been a journey, I guess. So I just kind of wanted to hop on and introduce myself, give a little bit of a background of where I'm coming from, the knowledge that I'm bringing into this, and kind of what I've learned along the way. I actually originally recorded my intro episode with kind of like all my information and why I'm starting the podcast and all that back a few months ago now, probably January, and I was listening back to it. I'm like, I cannot put that out. My opinions have changed on so many things, and I really wanted to make sure that this first episode was representative of where I'm at in this moment in this journey. It's crazy to see how quickly your opinions can change on certain topics, and your perception and your perspective can all change. So yeah, it was pretty interesting to listen back, but wanted to kind of give a fresh start. So I guess a little bit about me. I was born and raised up in Northern Ontario. I was born in Fort Frances, and I lived for a little bit in Atikokan for a few years. I also spent about half of my upbringing in Cobourg, Ontario, which is 1 hour east of Toronto. So I've had enough time, I think, to grasp the difference of culture and society in Northern versus Southern Ontario. I also lived in London for 6 years while I was going to university. I went to Western for medical biophysics, and I got my bachelor's in that. And I did about a year of my master's before I withdrew and decided to pursue radiation therapy, which I'll be starting in September at the University of Toronto and the Michener Institute of Education. So I've kind of been all over the province, I guess you can say, and I've learned a lot living in all of those different places, and I love being able to see kind of both cultures, because there is a difference in culture for sure, and to be understanding, I guess, of like the issues and the nuances of living in both areas has been really interesting, and it really helps me in my position on the PCMNO, the Provisional Council of the Métis Nation of Ontario, where I sit as the post-secondary representative. And yeah, it definitely helps me in those conversations because I understand the struggles of living up north. Most of my family still lives in Atikokan, and then I also understand the struggles of being an Indigenous person in an urban center. So I've kind of lived in both worlds. Other than that, I guess the motivation of this podcast was my own journey. When I started in the MNO, I was in grade 12. My first thing that I did with the MNO was the Infinite Reach March Break Camp, which is a March break camp that is intended to kind of bridge the gap between post-secondary students and high school students, and they bring in kind of post-secondary facilitators, and they talk to the high school students about what's kind of coming for them, and you get to dive into the culture a little bit. So I did that in grade 12, and then I kind of brought my sash back. I was all excited, walked into high school, and I got made fun of, honestly. People questioned the sincerity of it, I guess, because we were in the midst of applying for university and all that, and people thought I was doing it to get a leg up for some reason, applying to university, I got the comments like, oh, you're only 1/50th First Nations, like, what are you doing? Or, people questioning about why I wasn't participating earlier. And I fed into it a little bit. I laughed it off. I minimized the importance of everything to me, and I really didn't jump back in until I think it was 3 or 4 years down the road, when I needed some money for school. And I reached out to the M&O, and they were able to fund my last year of university, and I decided to, give back to the community. I wanted to volunteer and put a little bit back into the community because I was taking, some resources out of it. So that's how I got started, and then I just fell in love, and I haven't been able to leave. I'm now, post-secondary representative on the PCMNO. I'm actually working for the M&O this summer as a summer youth program facilitator, where we kind of offer programming for communities, cultural programming. So yeah, I'm pretty ingrained now, but I love it. It's definitely home now, and I've grown a lot in my time with the M&O. As I said, like even just this year, listening back to the episode that I taped for my intro, to now, it's like, yeah, I'm growing a lot, and I can't help but, look at the M&O as a vessel for my growth and my change, and just, yeah, it's been amazing to be welcomed so warmly into a community when I was really scared to kind of take the leap of faith and start identifying and participating openly in community events. So this podcast is supposed to help people that were in or are in the position I was in, 6-7 years ago, where they're starting, they're not confident in what it means to be Métis, in their position in the community. They might not be confident in even identifying yet. Maybe they're getting teased, or their family's kind of pushing back a little bit, who knows. But this podcast is supposed to be a resource for people in those positions, so that you can listen to, conversations with knowledge holders in our community, kind of plug into conversations that you might not have the chance to participate in otherwise, so that you can come to our community events ready to go, super excited like all the rest of us, and we'll be here, arms open, ready for you guys to jump in. So that's kind of the purpose and the intention behind this. I've had a lot of really cool conversations already, just interviewing the first 3 people that are on the podcast. I'm open to suggestions. If you guys want to hear anybody specifically, please let me know. I really want this to be kind of community driven, not just me picking and choosing who I want to talk to. I really want you guys to be getting as much out of this as I am, to be honest. So yeah, I guess I'll leave it at that. And I really hope that you guys like it. I know that I've had a lot of people reach out to me asking, when it's coming and all this stuff. I kind of shot myself in the foot by telling people prematurely, but it's been nice because they've kind of pushed me to get it together and put it out. So yeah, thanks for listening, and thanks for supporting me always. I love my community. I love being Métis. I love being Indigenous. And I'm hoping that, in listening to some of these conversations, maybe I light a fire in somebody else. So, yeah, thank you so much. This podcast is done in partnership with the Métis Nation of Ontario's Youth Council and their Grassroots Grants program, which is a program that funds Métis youth in Ontario to start their own community-based initiatives. If you liked this episode, please feel free to follow me on Instagram at Métis and Me with 2 E's, on YouTube at Métis and Me with 1 E, and you can also email me at métisandme1e@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening.